Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I've just learned one thing, man. Don't make any suggestions about computers to Nathan Oakley.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm sure I'll lighten up about that kind of crap. But when you spent 14 months pissing around with a computer, you tend to have less tolerance for people. But I don't know. I'm getting more and more tolerant as the computer becomes more and more reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spent all weekend testing it without any failures. So you can't really ask for much more than that.
Yeah, knock on wood, man. Let's see.
On Saturday morning, I ran a mock stream, so I set up a live stream to a private, instead of to members or to the public, it was private, so no one can see it, so I can just monitor it. And I ran that at all loads, i.e. the load that the show's at now, very low load, medium load, videos and stuff playing, maybe a Skype caller, I don't know, and heavy loads, i.e. with a game running to stress the system as much as it can. And I think I did 4 hours and 20 minutes on Saturday with OBS running, recording and live streaming everything, both projector and monitor on. So everything that could be running was running. And it did that for over 4 hours. And then did it for a couple of hours yesterday, Sunday. So I can't remember what time. I've been very ill all weekend. I spent most of it in bed, if I'm honest. But in between being ill and being in bed, I set the system up to just to stress test it like I would any other weekend and have been doing for over a year. But in this instance, nothing failed. It's not like I got to the 3 hour mark and I'm like, oh, it failed under high load at high temperature after 3 hours. It didn't do any of that. It just worked.
So is your goal to make it run indefinitely, like to be able to run it without stopping the whole time, or?
That's the idea.
Because it seems like you can't just save the energy for the show, like,
yeah,
run it for a couple of hours and turn it.
The idea is that by the end of this week, Friday, I will have forgotten about it and have to remind myself that I need to then make an image of the operating system drive in case that fails again. So that I've got a backup, so I don't have to spend 2 or 3 weeks reinstalling software. And even now, I'm still finding glitches like that, but that's not hardware. That's just because I've put a new version of Windows on and then put everything that's on the system has been put on fresh, like OBS. So last week, for instance, that might not have been a hardware issue. That might have been me setting the encoder. AV1, I'm not that familiar with. It's relatively new. And I only started using it since changing the graphics card to the last one that failed. But I'm not that familiar with the settings. So putting OBS back on and then going, all right, what did I have AV1 set to? I think I just set it all too high and probably overloaded the encoder because the computer didn't crash on Friday. The live stream encoding failed. It carried on recording. So I'm like, okay, well, it didn't give me a message that said overloaded encoder. It just failed. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I've fiddled with those settings as well over the weekend. That was partially one of the reasons that I tested. Everything seems great. Hey, John.
Well, it's good to hear, man.
I say that. I've said that. I'm going to say 20 times.
Yeah.
in a year. So it doesn't mean much. Don't lend much weight to that.
You feeling better today as far as yourself?
Me? No, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
I've been very, very ill.
Shit.
But that's because
You
I've
got a
spent so long pissing
cold or
around with the
something or what?
computer, I've made myself ill. So,
Oh,
it's just one of those things.
stressed out. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to not burning out, but doing the YouTube. Most people, they don't concern themselves too much with their computer, and then they just do YouTube, get into it, and then do too much of it and burn themselves out
Yeah.
that way. Me, it's up till 1 and 2 in the morning testing a computer to do the YouTube. The YouTube bit's second nature now, but I'm not exactly innovating when I'm just going through the motions each day. But that should change if I can finally put this pain in the ass computer behind me in terms of literally paying it no attention anymore. It just turns on in the morning, I do a show with it, and then forget about it afterwards, or my wife watches telly on it.
Speaking of changing things,
Here we go.
do you think we should be going out more from this space that we occupy to, be like flatsoid and debate?
You can do whatever you like. Like I said, I was trying to explain this to Tinfoil Hat Man when he's like, well, what about this arrangement on a Wednesday? I'm like, whatever you like. The door is open. It works both ways. While there is no obligation whatsoever for you to come and do anything, there is also no demand for me to say that you should be here at a particular time. The door's open. It's a bar. You come in if you want to. You know what I mean? It's like, well, should we venture out of the bar? Well, as a bartender, I'm going to say no. No, you should just stay here and drink my drinks.
Right, but I mean, I'm saying as representatives of this community, this group that we are, should we? Is it behooving upon us to share the information that we have to a greater audience?
I would say absolutely yes, and I want that audience to be my larger audience. Absolutely, yes.
Right. So,
You're
but by
asking
doing that,
you're asking
we
me
would.
these questions. Put them to somebody, Mighty Mush or Righteous or Roto or Steve or Rayleigh. Put it to anybody else other than me, because all you're going to get from me now is pure bias, aren't you?
Well, it's not necessarily the bias part that I'm looking at. It's the about growing the audience itself, and how would you, besides sharing the show, they're going out to other platforms. Um, that would be the only way I can really think to do it.
Well, you'd have to do the research prior to that. So let's say I was marketing something and somebody comes along and says, well, do we not need to reach more of an audience for this product? And you go, yeah, obviously, that's always going to be the intention. Well, what about we do flyers? You go, okay. You go, well, I see flyers and people buy stuff. So surely people see stuff and buy flyers, have to see flyers and buy stuff. You go, okay, well, let's just do the research. Let's see how many flyers have gone out and how much return we got from them. Well, in this instance, you're saying, well, is it behooving upon us to go onto a different platform and raise awareness via that different platform? Well, you have to gather the statistics in terms of how effective that would be. Thank you very much, Hun. So for me, it would be like Chronicles of whatever it's called, Earth Chronicles, right? So it's a completely separate platform. It's on Rumble or whatever it is. I can't remember the name of the platform. But a different platform that isn't YouTube, with a different audience, hostile. How much effect did that have? I mean, how many people saw that absolutely outstanding win from Patrick and myself and go, I will now endeavour to find out more and find out where this Patrick and or this Nathan person are from and where they reside and what they talk about. Now, if the answer is none, then no. The answer to your question is no. However, if you say, here are 500 people that came off the back purely of Earth Chronicles who weren't interested in YouTube, let alone Flat Earth on YouTube, until they heard that discussion, then they sought out your Flat Earth YouTube channel.
Right. Well, that was one of the ideas behind going to Jaron's and debatism or whatever is, I mean, there's no losing to it. You know what I mean?
That's different. Absolutely correct. Partially from that, with that hat on, the YouTube hat on, there is no loss. Another reason why I would agree with you, and I also did go on Jaron's show to talk to Jaron for that very specific reason. Why? Well, because there's no downside, is there? You're talking to a custom-made audience. It's not like going on Earth Chronicles. Yeah, they're interested in Earth, the people who are the audience, that is. But are they interested in reality as we know it? No, they definitely are not. They're interested in affirming their biases and learning more about the rhetoric of Earth. Well, that's not necessarily our audience. Jaron's audience are. Now, they may have been poisoned against us by Jaron. That's inconsequential. If they're interested in the subject and they like what they hear, they will very quickly relinquish their bias that have been poisoned with. Because they're only, I would imagine, for the most part, some of them are going to be dumb and only interested in the personalities themselves, in which case they'll not just take it with a pinch of salt, they'll gobble down the whole 3-course meal of Nathan's a scammer from Jaron, because they're dumb and only interested in people. But the people who are interested in the ideas are going to be going, oh, I like the sound of that, and they will endeavour to find out more. So from that perspective, I would agree with you that it is a very good idea. Now, I've already done it. You're looking at doing it, as it's being encouraged that someone from this particular show goes on that show to debate whoever, perhaps Ruhif, again, for you. Then great, yeah, there is no downside.
Yeah, I can't wait until Ruhif lays out the point of contention. You know, because like I've not put anything forward. Like, what is the contentious point you want to debate in this topic, Ruhif?
It's too smart for your own good. They won't get that. That might raise a wry smile here, because obviously we understand the, let's say, gravitas of your question. What is the contentious point we are debating about? Where do we disagree exactly, Ruhif? Can you show me that, please? Because I'm pretty sure we both need this flat plane. In fact, you need it more than I do. So while I understand, and you obviously understand as you laugh too, the importance and significance of that question, but without me illustrating it to audience members in this instance, they may not, and Ruhif probably wouldn't. Understand?
Yeah, I've noticed most of them want to debate about what we're the terms of the debate more than they, want to talk about the contentious point that will be debated.
Oh, they need all of their little security blankets in place well before the debate gets started. They need to orchestrate the debate, not win based on their points. They can't do that. So they have to orchestrate the debate, don't they? That's where this whole neutral platform comes from. Right, I've got an open door. I say Earth's flat. You think I'm wrong, come and tell me. Easy. What's that? No, you want me to come to you for you to tell me how wrong I... Get lost. Dickheads. Whatever. I don't care. That crap about it's not a neutral platform. Okay? No, it isn't. Yeah, it's very much not a neutral platform. I think Earth's flat. What's that? You disagree with me? Yeah, there's the door. Come in, you can tell me how much you disagree with me. Oh, you need a neutral platform to do that. You can suck my... Now, go away. Get lost, I don't care. And in answer to your very first question, do we have an obligation? I feel no. My obligation is to me and my audience. I'm very selfish in that regard. That is very much a YouTube hat on. What do I care about in this regard? My own audience can care less about anything else. What's that? The world at large finding out. It's going to shock my audience. Maybe think less of me. Nah, don't care. You, my audience member, you listening now, I care about you. Yeah, is that self-centered? No, not at all. I'm talking about you, the audience member, and how much I care about you. Now, you could rephrase that to what? My audience member. Yeah, it is. Yeah, the person that keeps the lights on. Yeah, I'm very devoted to the people who keep the lights on. Yeah, I am. The people outside of that I couldn't care less. That's why people who come along and say I should go and debate them on a neutral platform, I take Brian's tact. How much? What's in it for me? Literally, that is the question that you have to ask yourself when you're in sales, and someone's punting something back at you, what's in it for me? Well, in the case of going out and promoting people to come to my show, that's not what people want on their other, quote, neutral platform. They want to show me wrong and are absolutely elated that they've got somewhere that they have control of, that they can orchestrate a situation to do that, as opposed to just show me that I'm wrong. Like you say, they're not going to spend hours debating about the contentious point prior to the actual discussion, like Jaron and I did, right? I say Jaron and I explained what I would be talking about with him. He ignored it almost entirely, only to tell me that I've been quote mining when I was giving definitions of words like pseudoscience. Nevertheless, the standard that I would want is that we would go through the points that were being discussed in regards to the debate, prior to, if that is what is formally done in that regard. Okay, well, if that is what is formally done, then let's do that. What's that? You want to know about how long people will have to talk? How many points are going to be raised? How many... No. I say Earth's flat. You've got to measure it that way. What's going to be the response? Is it going to be one? That's my point. You're going to give me back what I'm going to get back, or is it going to be a surprise? What's that? You need to know about the time and the arrangements and who's going to be on camera, who's going to share what clip, how long you'll have to be silent while the clip's played. I couldn't care less. Earth is measured flat. You can't get angles from curves. That's not how Earth's dealt with. That's what I'm putting forward. What have I got back? What more discussion about how the debate will take place? Earth's flat. That's it. Here, we can focus on that. There's no argy-bargy. There's no beating around the bush. What's that you say? Orbits? How are you going to do that without a flat plane? Bye-bye. Off they run. As soon as it gets to the actual point. Yeah? Well, that's what happens here. Now, on a neutral platform, my question about how they'll get an angle when describing orbits would immediately be shut down. Nay, with Flatzoid repeated 8 times, only for him to get told off. How dare you repeat the same question you're not getting an answer to that absolutely wins this point 8 times? I think it's only reasonable that the other person gets a minute and a half to hand wave you. Off you go, opponent. That's what you get on a neutral platform. How neutral do you think Jaron is? He's at odds, right? Ambivalent, almost. I hate him. He's a scammer.
Right.
I'd like one of his show members to come on my show. Is that so? How interesting.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. I'm not really there to disagree, or anybody that thinks there is a debate to be had will be disappointed. There's nothing there. It's the appearance of a debate, I guess, but there will be no point debated because the only point that matters has already been resolved.
Yeah. All claims in regards to Earth, regardless of its ball nature, by reification, or its actual, useful, practically applied, measurable surface, both will be using a flat plane. There's no point in a contention until one, in this instance, opponent suggests that we are actually standing upon a spherical surface derived from a flat plane measurement. Then there's a point of contention.
Sorry about that. I was dealing with screaming babies. Infuriated. Like, talking about this topic with a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old fighting in the background is not the easiest thing to do.
Don't worry about it. You manage here.
But if I could give my full attention to it, I feel like I would do better sometimes, you know?
You don't need it. They don't need your full attention. You could do this with one arm behind your back. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with bogeys. That's just really gross. I'm going to go back on mute again. Hopefully the conversation won't dry up while I make horrible noises.
Yeah, I mean, I can. Like, it's like, I guess at this point, tying your shoes. Like, I could tie my shoes, you know, riding on a bumpy car going down the road, but still, if you want to tie your shoes, it's preferable to be able to sit down somewhere and do it, you know? And when you got little ones getting upset, it's easy to get frazzled, especially when you're trying to get across a point that someone else is just absolutely not getting at all. Like how they're using a flat plane.
Go ahead, Roto.
Hey, John. Hey, Nathan. Morning, y'all.
Hopefully you'll keep the chit chat
Yeah,
up and I'll get a
hey.
coffee. Back in a sec.
Hey, John, you talking about doing the debate?
Oh yeah, I figured I'd go over there. I mean, I don't know what the contentious point would be to debate about at this point.
Well, that's true. I mean, everything you would be bringing would be solid. That's true. But what would be your intent? What would you want to, what would the motive be? What's the end game?
Well, I want other flat earthers who aren't privy to this information to have the tools to talk about this topic without being drawn into a debate.
Would it be to confront the anti, or would it be more for the neutral listener? Who are you appealing to if you go debate? Because you're not going to move them. You're not going to budge them. They're set just on being contrary. That's all. So no matter what relevance of solid reasoning and logic that you bring, they'll just dismiss it. But now there may be other listeners there that may be more receptive to what you might say.
Well,
I mean, you
see,
could
it's the
leave with
thing.
a headache. You could leave with a headache, or you could leave with somebody getting some benefit.
Right, third time's a charm. That is definitely the end of your statement, right? Go ahead, John.
Yeah,
Sure.
the whole idea though is it doesn't matter if you're a contrarian. It doesn't matter what position you hold. You will utilize the earth as a flat plane whenever you are trying to calculate or measure anything to do with it. That's my entire point. And the only point really needs to be discussed. Whether you're talking about Coriolis, any other form of earth rotation, the radius value, vertical, horizontal, anything and everything requires Earth to be a flat horizontal plane for you to make the claim.
Do you think Jaron's feelings are hurt? Like, serious question. Do you think he is operating under hurt feelings?
I do not know. I mean, and if he is, I'll try my best to smooth those over. Like I said, I don't have anything against Jaron personally, except for what he said about Nathan, which bothered me, you know, but he didn't exactly say it about me.
Right.
But he
It's a
he
funny
said things
thing.
about people I care about.
it's a funny thing about people and their psychology, but probably 2 years ago, Jaron was heavily into the crypto. Well, he was heavily uh, advocating Richard Hart, who is the originator of the hex cryptocurrency. I don't know if you're familiar with this era of Jaron, but it was on and on. But the thing is he got Richard Hart on his show. Now, Richard Hart is banking. I mean, the man is, you know, cashing it. So to come on Jaron's show to talk about Hex was according to Jaron, this was going to be a big deal because you've got the man himself on your show with in this case, the product is crypto. Anyway, Richard gets on the show and everything's going okay. But Richard knows Jaron at that time advocated things like flat earth. But Richard on a live show pretty much just embarrasses Jaron, like bullying. Okay. Jaron wasn't prepared for that. Jaron got his feelings hurt. It was obvious because it's as simple as watching your kids get their feelings hurt. You know when they're pouting. Okay.
Sorry, I only caught the end of
So
this.
not to,
Sorry, what did he do to embarrass him?
just the way that he belittled Jaron. He
Yeah, but why?
belittled his beliefs in flat Earth, that it was silly. Uh,
Oh, sorry,
these types of things.
belittled him for believing Earth is flat.
Yes,
Well, he shouldn't have a belief
just
in
the
flat Earth then, should he? Don't believe in things. You'll get people taking the mickey out of you, and they'll expose your belief, won't they? Me, I don't have a belief
sure.
in flat Earth. If somebody tells me I'm stupid for believing in a flat Earth, I don't want to steal John's thunder, but I'll do what John does, which is to say, no, you'll use a flat plane too to believe you're on a sphere. I'd flip that immediately back onto them. Oh, I'm stupid for believing Earth's flat. Well, you're measuring it to claim you're on a sphere. That seems a lot more stupid to me.
Well,
That's
as
Right,
the
the
but
problem, isn't
story
it? That's the
continues,
problem with believing in flat Earth. Believing in things like flat Earth is going to get you nowhere, and I'll have people taking the mickey out of you. But here we don't have that problem, do we?
we don't. But for John going to back to the pit and debating these guys, I'm just saying that this one thing that after that happened, where Jaron was loyal to the Hex game, he toppled it. Even though he may have been in support of it, since he was embarrassed, you could see it was an emotional reaction over something that he may have altruistically been in path with the day before. Now, because he was embarrassed live, after that, you can tell that his reactions weren't even about the topic anymore. It was about his feelings being hurt. And that's all I'm saying about Brian getting in. I don't know who he would be debating all that info, but if
Brian?
it's a Jaron
I don't
thing,
think you mean Brian. I think you
I
mean
mean,
John.
John,
I was going to
John,
say,
I
did
mean,
they plumb up the €5,000? If they've come up with the €5,000, I'll be kicking myself for not agreeing.
well, John, I think you'd do great, man. I mean, especially if you had some receptive listeners there, you might be able to net a few.
well, I'm not too concerned about whether they're receptive or not. Um, in my experience so far, with the understanding I have, there's only one direction they can go, and it's as far away from me as possible.
Plus, you can pull the whole, Vietnam thing, man. I was there, man. I was a baller too, attacking Morgile. You can pull that one on them.
Well, no, I mean, what can they talk about that isn't going to require a flat plane to talk about it?
Nothing. You went through it earlier. You're like, no matter what they're talking about, axial rotation, gravity, Coriolis effect, gradiated layers. They'll all reference a flat plane. It don't matter what they talk about.
Yeah, like what all they can do is either silence me, which will look bad on their part, which I don't think Jaren's going to do. Jaren may be antagonistic towards us, but I don't think he's going to completely silence me.
I don't think you could let that be the case.
Yeah, if anybody's going to silence me, it'll be these two little rugrats.
Awesome. Speaking of Rugrats.
But I just do that so everybody can actually hear what's going on. Sorry.
That's all right. I've done a second of, been doing it for a week, but the second class with my youngest. My kids are very different in terms of what they like, and they've got different classes, which is a bit weird. But by the same token, that's one of the reasons we home ed, so that we can give them different classes for different requirements. And yeah, so I like to do a fairly reasonable drive. So we picked a class that was about half an hour away, so that I can have a drive with one of or other of the kids on each day, and then just talk to them about stuff in general, ask them what they want to know. If I know about it, I'll try and talk to them about it, or find out about it and educate them on the next lesson, on the next drive, if that makes sense. So I've been doing that for like 4 or 5 years with my eldest, to an art class, which has gone from her splashing paint on the wall, all with the same teacher. Like, she's grown up with this particular class. Now she's like learning advanced art history with this teacher. It's cool to see them progress. Whereas with this other class with Clover, like I say, it's early days to know what it's going to develop into, but all good. It's nice. Like I say, I'm feeling refreshed because I've had that. I like driving and having a blast up and down with your kids sat next to you, chit-chatting and listening to music and singing to the radio is great. A little bit of one-on-one time with your kid. Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking for a little bit of one-on-one time with my wife away from my kids, but that's getting harder and harder to do.
Yeah, you're going to work for that too. Or you just have to resign yourself to the fact that your kids are going to have to see you being affectionate to your wife at some stage. It's just the way it goes. Just don't take it too far. Hey, Arwen.
Yeah, I don't know how the coal miners, like my great Aunt Hazel, had 20 kids. 20. How did she find the time? I don't, and with no modern conveniences. This was like 80 years ago,
Vicious circle. There's no time, so when you end up having any sort of alone time, another kid comes along.
Yeah, but it's an actual job, guys. Getting kids, and they treated it like a job. So it's like, yeah, you get a lot of kids. Oh, I haven't broken yet. Well, it can keep on going. That's what it was. It's a professional mother. Hello, by the way.
Hello.
We can do that again, We can have those women again.
Can we? Did we have those women to begin with? We're children of the 80s, are we?
What?
Those women, whatever.
Those are previous generations, but it's because of how they viewed life, how they lived, how they had their priorities. we can repopulate again.
I have no idea what you're babbling about.
About repopulation from dying humanity because everybody's turned into wussies and they're not interested in procreating anymore. They believe the world is ending and they need to rid of humanity, all that. Yeah, well, that's not going to help mothers get the idea of getting a lot of children anymore. Typically, they will be discouraged, but we can get that back.
Well, the discouragement itself is part of
We
population
can
control.
repopulate.
Yeah, stopping the population growing too quickly. There's various different things, but we're not going to talk about those on this live show. Obviously.
No, there's going to be a massive population collapse because we've been over encouraged to stop procreating. It's going to be a massive collapse, and they're trying to replace it by just getting a lot of immigrants. It doesn't work though. Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Immediately,
morning.
as soon as we go live, I immediately encounter my first problem. So I say I've checked all the OBS settings over the weekend and streamed. As soon as I started the live stream, it says, your stream bitrate is lower than we would recommend. Warning. I'm like, oh, wonderful. So there's me thinking I need to lower the settings slightly just to make things a bit more stable. I tested all weekend, streaming live, no warning. As soon as you're actually doing a proper live show,
Notifications.
you get a notification from YouTube saying, warning, bitrate's too low. Well, it's only gone down by 1,500, so I'm sure I can increase it again. Hopefully that won't cause instability throughout the week, but there's my first problem. We'll see if that continues. Let's do some housekeeping questions. Stream health warnings from YouTube aside. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
The only way to derive that would be to use the surface of Earth as a horizontal plane.
Right. It's just a suggestion to consider the flat plane to be spherical. That's it.
So one of the things we're going to drive home throughout this week, all being well, is a necessity for a flat plane in all instances. Now, this was discussed on the pre-show, but it's an idea that I want people to really cement in their mind because it's a reassuring notion when you understand it as a flat earther. And we're going to cover some of those things with that in mind in the housekeeping. So we're going to go through them with that in mind, not necessarily just talking to John. Arwin wasn't here in the pre-show to hear the conversation, but he'll get the idea as we go along. Obviously, I'm going to lean on some of the people who were here from Discord during that conversation. All of you here during that conversation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. So there will be a few people who interject, hopefully, from Discord. So let's ask a couple of the housekeeping questions with that in mind. So any evidence of axial rotation?
No, there's Coriolis
axis.
correction. So you know it's spinning because there's no deviation, but there is, but then it's corrected for, even though it's an apparent deviation, but it's still possible because we don't see anything spin. Is that good enough?
But the axis itself is derived from a flat plane measurement to Polaris.
So you're going to need a flat Earth for axial rotation, Arwin?
Yeah, man, you may really, it's so annoying.
It's not annoying. What do you mean annoying?
Yeah, it is annoying. You're annoying my Baldwin. It's really annoying.
Oh, well.
Always the same thing. Like, yeah, we need a flat plane for that. Can we move on now?
Why is that objectionable, Arwin? You're going to have to... That is, to me, your objection is so egregious, I'm going to ask you to highlight why that would be annoying, as you put it.
You just ruin everything. You ruin the game. How can we consider anything to be a globe when it's all based off a flat plane every time?
Echoed sentiments from the likes of Brian and Sleeping Warrior is what you're doing, correct? If we don't allow them to beg the question, Arwin, are you suggesting that takes away the fun of debating? What's the point of debating if it's an Earth that's spherical versus an Earth that's pancake? If you point out that all derivations and models are starting with a measurement that's from a flat plane, that takes away the fun because everyone's just arguing for a flat plane then, right, Arwin?
Yeah, no. But look, I appreciate that you figured out the nature of reality and that it requires a flat plane, but it's just saying it every time makes it more difficult for those who voluntarily wish to engage at consideration of that flat plane to be a sphere. It's just very disruptive if you keep saying it like that every time. Right?
No, not right.
The sphere believers are going to consider it to be a flat plane. It's just if you say it exactly like that every time, you just disrupt that process in your mind. It's like, could you please stop trying to break the delusion of that the Earth is a globe, even though it's based off a flat plane? Please.
I can. What I also know is I've now banged my bitrate up from 8,000 to 13,000. Hopefully that won't cause any issues. We shall see. Anyway, you're saying it's an annoyance, Arwin, and it really isn't. It's an annoyance if you can't put the B and C from the A to D. If, in other words, how can I phrase this? If you can negotiate your way through the back roads and discussions without employing fallacies on the flat earth side, then there's no reason why you shouldn't rest assured that there is a quicker and easier way of doing it. And that is to say that there is a flat earth requirement for your claim, Mr. Globe proponent, who's declaring orbits, declaring axial rotation, declaring Coriolis effect, declaring gradiated horizontal layers to give them diffraction rates. Anything they claim will be requiring a flat plane. Why wouldn't you want to point that out?
Because you leave so little room for the imagination.
So what you're saying is because our
Also,
opponent's claim is based in imagination land, we should leave room for that.
No,
Yeah,
but
that is what you're
I
saying.
want room for that.
Yeah, but we're not speculating about what it could be when we're debating with people who physically reify the nature of a flat plane measurement derived into a sphere by concept into the world they're actually standing on. That's not imagination land, that's delusion.
Yeah. Is there a difference?
also within the delusion itself, when they talk about latitude-based Coriolis, which would be actual deviation, not apparent, they need a flat plane for that Coriolis as well.
Of course. But I mean, delusion and illusion, or imagination and delusion, are not really that far off. I mean, delusion is basically imagination reified into reality. That's it.
No, that's reification.
Yeah, but that is
Delusion.
Why are we doing
delusion. When
this? I
people
love
do
it.
that, when they think that the imagination is the reality, that is delusion.
Why are we discussing this though?
So we can get away from that.
this
It's
is
all based off a flat plane. Damn it!
Rhetorical. I'm saying, why are we discussing the whys and wherefores of people's cognition in respect to the point that flat Earth's going to be measured? That's what happens, isn't it? You point out to the
Anything
world.
to get away from that.
Yes, thank you, Arwin. To get you away from the point that you're measuring a flat plane to claim you're on a globe, you'll discuss the vulnerability of people's perception, or the inability for people to conceptualize a reification, or who cares?
I gotta try, man.
In the
This
pre-show,
is still Baldwin doing this, dude. Just so you know.
in the pre-show, John was discussing the fact that when he's got kids over his right shoulder and he's in a discussion with people, it's hard because the person doesn't want to hear or may not understand something that you're trying to put across to them. And it's because of things like this, where you're going to need a flat Earth to claim you're orbiting. So it makes no sense to reify that into a physical way of being. You can't be physically orbiting if you're describing that with respect to angles measured off a flat plane. It's preposterous. But if you want to say, oh, let's negate the fact that you're taking angles from a flat plane to mathematically describe an orbit with respect to a celestial sphere over a flat plane. Well,
Yes.
if we start with the point where we're on a sphere that's reified from those measurements, then you can be on a ball and I can be on a pizza and we can argue happily. Sod that.
Yeah, now you're thinking like a baller.
I'm not a baller. Nor am I Sleeping Warrior or Brian or anybody else that likes getting into the begging the question idea of what they'll take from a flat plane measurement, turn into a ball, and then argue, we can't work on a flat plane. They've got to explain how they've... Go on, Arwin.
Sorry, it's just so funny when you say it like that. But I
What's
get
funny?
it.
That is the recipe, though. He said it exactly. They use a flat plane to argue why a flat plane can't work.
Right, so let's just move on. I'm not really objecting. I was just trying to just psychologically distract away from this endless repeating mantra of you're gonna need a flat plane for
Yeah,
that.
that's another tactic. Now you're trying a new tactic by disclaiming that you're discarding the old one. You think I don't know you? I've known you for nearly 10 years, Arwin. What
I
Arwin's
can't
now
help
doing...
it.
And he's interrupting me because he knows I've caught his game.
I'm not interrupting you.
So Arwin is now trying to dilute the point, right? Belittle the point, make it seem less important. Oh, well, we're just going over the same thing over and over again that proves Earth's flat and the globe measurements come from a flat plane. We're just covering that over and over. It's just nausea, isn't it, Arwin? It's almost like it's tedious, like it's not worth talking about, right? I know your
Yeah, it's
game.
just chanting. Just
chanting.
Flat plane for
I
that.
like that.
Okay, chanting.
We're just chanting that you'll need a flat Earth for that. Yeah. A nice tactic to try and dilute the most strong point. Yes, you can keep saying it over and over again, like it means something, to declare that you'll need a flat Earth angle measurement for your orbits, for example. You can keep saying it, but it's not like your repetition makes it more strong. Yeah, it does actually. Stating that fact over and over again will make it more strong, and I'm happy to do so. But what's that? You want to discuss how the cognition of your baller might feel when not allowed to reify and start at the point where they're on a ball that they measured from a flat plane? It's much easier for them if you argue in discussion where they start with the reification in tow, so they can perfectly justify begging the question with every example, because they're already on a sphere, and you've allowed them to do so when you don't tell them that they took that measurement from a flat plane to infer their reification, Arwin. Yes, it is absolutely
Yes.
strong, and I will repeat it.
Because that's how you learn to do it in school, right? Of course, you start with the presupposition that the Earth is a sphere, right? And then you figure out how. That's how. That's science.
Any scientific evidence of
You
gravity?
never.
Oh, go on, John. Did you have something else? Shout out to Jado just before you do. I'm terribly sick. Someone take over just while I get this out.
Okay, I'll
I
read
just
the
wanted
super
to
chat.
say that you never. Hold on a second. You never, at any point in time, assert that surface level is curving in any calculation, in any measurement. That is never done. Surface level is always a horizontal plane. So even in the Earth curve calculator, they're arguing about the physical geometric obstruction of the flat plane. That's what that calculator argues at best.
Okay, shout out to Jado. Yeah, he says, "Hey legends, don't forget we are moving into Christmas season. Christ's birth is the great flat earth story from 2,000 years ago." Thank you for the super chat, Jado. And a happy Christmas to all of you too. Not even December yet. Anyway.
Yeah, first St. Nicholas first. The 5th of December.
Flat Earth show, hello. Flat Earth show. Any scientific evidence of gravity, as you mentioned science, Arwin?
Well, gravity doesn't seem to influence Santa Claus's sleigh. And there's even been footage caught by NASA of it, officially released.
Well, on that, because we are talking about a phenomenon, if we're talking about science, would the phenomenon take place in a downward vector as it relates to vertical?
Are you asking me what gravity is?
Listen to his question.
is the phenomenon that's asserted to happen, whether it does or not, is it relate to the downward vector in the vertical?
I don't know. Next question.
Does gravity imply a downward bias, Arwin? I.e., it's downward. That's
No, no, officially it doesn't. It's just this colloquial belief, that makes it convenient to help visualize why the Earth would have stuff sticking to a ball in outer space. But gravity isn't a force, so no, there's not technically a downward bias involved.
any other day. Arwin would be doing the complete opposite to this. This is normally my bloody role, but Arwin's got to be awkward, hasn't he, ladies and gentlemen?
Yep.
Well, he invoked outer space, so he's going to have to invoke eccentricity to get his solar system and galaxies and
Perfect.
things like that. And
Exactly.
eccentricity goes with the horizontal plane.
Exactly. The eccentricity of space would require your description to come with respect to a plane of reference for the entirety of that space when describing orbits, even in pseudo-4 space, Arwin. You will still need a horizontal plane of reference, won't you? It's not boring. It's not tedious. This is the death knell for the globe, Arwin. Their globe needed a flat earth to describe it from the day they described it. That's about as powerful as any argument gets, and Arwin's sighing, just to be contrarian. He's putting his smiley emojis through in the Hangout like I can't see him either. Thinks it's funny.
No, I'm just, Baldwin is like, but I'm smiling here because it's true. It's like, wow, we got them by the balls, and it turns out their balls is a flat plane.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way of putting it. We've got them by the balls and their balls are flat. Not quite workable as an analogy, but it almost works, so why not? Yeah, their flat balls are exactly what they have. They took measurements from a plane and then derived the ball from them. Very interesting turn of events over the course of the 2023 period. 2022 equally interesting with elevation angles. 2021, year of the sextant. 2020, year of the black swan. What was 2019? Year of the begging the question, perspective hijacking earth curve maths, no doubt. It's been a long journey, but to say at the end of that journey you're going to need a flat earth for that, I think is a pretty glorious place to be. Why people find it objectionable on the flat earth side is beyond me, but they do. Maybe they want to argue. Another shout out to Jardo. Just pop it on screen. For those of you who are confused that Maggie had to use an elevation angle to find the GP, oh God, of the star hovering over Jesus. Praise Jesus for proving a flat earth proof, for providing a flat earth proof. So what you're saying is to follow the star to lead the three wise men to Bethlehem when it settled above the stable, they would have needed a flat earth to take an elevation angle measurement. Is that what you're saying, Jardo? It's loose. It's loose. It's pretty loose. I've got to be honest. They followed the star. They just had to follow it. I don't think God said, and ye shall find GP positions with respect to star above stable. I don't think that happened, Jardo. I've got to be honest. I'm not that Bible literate. Literate? Is that even a word? Literate? Literate. But I'm pretty sure my memory of the story didn't include taking angles and then formulating circles with them to find your position because they were lost. They weren't lost. They weren't drunken sailors. Not that I'm suggesting drunken sailors are the ones that get lost.
I'm pretty sure they weren't using a sextant to follow that star. They were just following the star. It was probably more like a comet in the sky. And it was just like, okay, we're going to go in that direction.
You'd make a polar turn, horribly full of colour hearing things like that. No. Just take it literally. They followed it. It wasn't a comet. It was a star. They followed the star.
Yeah, but if it's actually a star, then it would be fixed in the sky. If they follow, how can it be fixed in the sky then? Which star was it then?
You're talking about how could these happen in a story penned by God a man who, in that very same book, made the sun stop.
Yeah, but he did not clarify whether it was exclusively the sun that stopped or whether the entire celestial sphere
what's
stopped.
the problem
he
here?
never said that.
I don't normally get involved in these sorts of biblical discussions. There is no contention here. They followed a star. It ain't complicated.
Yeah, but it's not really literally defined as to like what that actually implies because it's
Paul,
just a story. It's not technical. It's not a technical manual like, oh yeah, this is exactly how it works and you have to use this math. No, it's the Bible. It's a story. So they don't say exactly what it was.
They followed the star. They do say it. They can take the literal bits literally. When they say they followed a star, I don't think that means anything other than that. But let's not get into this. Why are we doing
Which
it?
star that was it then?
Oh, Arwin's just using
This
his
is
tactic now,
irrelevant.
isn't he? This is taking us further away from...
Anything to get away from a damn flat plane again.
We're going to need a flat plane to take elevation angle measurements, and that's how we've mapped and navigated the world for a significant period of time. It's also the method used to derive a reification of a sphere to stand on, which we're not.
Right. But I mean, it is kind of a mystery, like follow the star, but is it like a light that's just hovering over Earth? It's separated from the rest of the celestials?
Do you know what
Like,
a
was it
VW Golf
actually a
looks like? Hold on,
celestial
Arwin.
star, or
Arwin, let
was
me
it
just try
a
and break it down
light
for you.
phenomenon
Arwin,
like a
you've got to stop
star?
at some point for me to break down an answer for you. You know what a VW Golf looks like?
No.
Do you know what a Ford Escort looks like?
Maybe.
Do you know what a car looks like?
Sometimes. No, yes, I do.
Okay, so pretend for a moment there's a red car just at the end of your street. Can you imagine that for me?
Sure.
And I say, follow that red car. What would you do?
Well, I follow the red car.
Okay, now let's
It's
substitute
there.
the
It's
word.
a physical thing that I know it's there. It's not
Okay,
just
I just
a
needed
visual.
that. I'd follow it. Yes, thanks. Now let's substitute the word car for star. I say, follow that star. What are you going to do?
Well, it all depends on what I would understand stars to be and recognize what I'm even looking at.
You know they move. I'm pointing at one and going, follow that. You just follow it.
Well, if it is actually a star that is fixed on the celestial sphere, then yeah, that would be more straightforward, and it would be very informed about what it actually is.
Yes, it would be a
an
pretty
actual star of
rubbish
the celestial
story
sphere.
if the narrator pointed at Polaris and went, follow that star. Yeah, that wouldn't be much use.
No, it would be. It would be extremely logical because now you have an actual reference to something on the celestial sphere
You're
that
just
is
being
still
awkward.
there.
Yeah, you're just being contrarian. It's not funny. It is funny, but I want to say it isn't because, hold on, I'm breaking character telling you it's not funny when it is funny. It's not funny.
All
Stop
I'm
it.
saying is, I don't know whether it's actually a star. The way they describe it, it doesn't seem like it's part of the celestial sphere. It's rather
Okay,
a
this is turning into a
unique
biblical
light
discussion about
phenomenon
Christmas.
that's similar to a star.
Hello? I don't want a biblical discussion about Christmas when we can prove Earth's flat and that the globe believers took those measurements and turned them into a sphere. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? And God said the sun would stop. No, I won't.
Yeah, but did only the sun stop, or did the entire celestial sphere stop?
Distance to the sun.
3 AUs.
Well, if you're going to use
Oh, John. Arwinian units don't count. Go ahead.
if you're going to use radar or any of the Keplerian ideas to try to figure out a distance, that'll require a flat plane.
So, if you're going to claim heliocentrism in general, Earth moving around the sun in an orbital motion, in a Keplerian heliocentric description, you will be referencing a flat plane to describe those motions from a plane with respect to the celestial sphere?
Yes. Yep. Whether you're using radar to try to bounce a signal and take the incident angle of the return, or if you're going to be using the celestial sphere and elevation angles within it to try to establish solar orbits. It both require a plane of reference.
Right. I mean, obviously, before Arwin gets in and say, yeah, but if I take that plane of reference, take the protractor that I've measured and make it into a 3959 mile radial sphere that I can stand on and reference to the plane inside it that I'm actually getting the measurements from, that would be your reference plane inside a ball. I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult to reference inside the ball, but that is essentially what they do.
Right. Well, it's not a plane of reference if it can't be referenced.
You're saying when they put the equatorial plane in a ball, it's no longer actually a plane of reference, something that's absolutely required for any of these angles that are described within orbital motions or the distance derivation of the sun.
Right, because the ball
I'm
is
saying when they
it's a
take,
plane underneath it, right?
Hold on,
Like,
Arwen's got a
it's
distraction,
relation.
John. Very important. Go ahead, Arwen.
That it because there's always this angular relation between the celestial sphere and the flat plane underneath it. Without the flat plane underneath it, the celestial sphere is not anchored. It's not specific. It's not actually mapped without the
You're
flat
correct.
plane underneath it.
You're correct. It's just the other way around. It's not that the flat plane is centered from the celestial sphere. It's the other way around. The celestial sphere is a description taken from a plane of reference. So it's the celestial sphere that's anchored to the plane. The plane is the starting point, not the celestial sphere.
Maybe.
right.
No, fact.
And
The point
It
is
is.
that you can't map
when-
the celestial sphere without a plane. That was my point.
Well, yeah, that's more accurate. To say you can't map out a celestial sphere without a flat plane to begin with is far more accurate. Yes, Arwen, that's a much better phraseology. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, my point was, as long as you're using the equatorial plane from inside the celestial sphere, you're fine. The moment you wrap a sphere around that point of measurement, you can no longer reference the plane because you don't think you're at that point to reference it.
Yeah, that's where you have to convolute the discussion when starting at a sphere by, number one, ignoring the fact that you can't get an elevation angle measurement to any of the stars, but notwithstanding the fact that you can't actually take any angle measurements because you don't have a horizon to reference for surface level, even though that's part of their maths, you start drawing parallel light rays and inferring that the angle you take that you can't take moves to the center of a sphere. Why? Well, because then we can use everything where it works on a plane in the center of the sphere. But it's all good because all the light rays are strictly coming in parallel with each other and they all move to the center of the sphere anyway. So it's all good that we stand inside hell, inside the sphere, and work off this plane here. We're not on this plane, obviously, because we're not on the sphere anymore, and that's what we really live on. On that sphere we're not referencing and not using and not taking angles from. Because they all come in parallel to that sphere, so we can work in the middle of it. We're in hell now. It's all good. That's what they do.
No, you can't do that, though. You can't reference that plane if that plane is unreferenceable. So it's no longer a plane of reference when you try to put it in hell.
Another shout out to Jardo, who says that Maggie were astronomers, amongst other things. A new star shining bright is a huge astronomical event. Hey, they used knotted string strung from face level well before a sextant. The star was fixed. Okay, fair enough. If I didn't have such a heavy cold, my eyes wouldn't be all blurry, and I'd read that a lot better. But thank you very much for the super chat. I think I got your general sentiment.
Elevation angles have been taken for, that's before Christ.
I've got a sentiment. He's saying, while you poo-pooed my notion that they might be taking elevation angles, I assure you elevation angles were used long before Christ. That's his point, right?
Yes, that's why I was just trying to clarify what he had said. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. But I hate to do it to you again for a second time, Jardo. Is that what it says, though, in the Bible? This is not a Bible discussion. but it is become one because Jardo spent $30 on making it one, so it's going to be one for $30. It's just how I am. I'm a slave to money. What can I say? Anyway, if the Bible talked about celestial navigation in any respect, with the story of Christ's birth, Christmas, then I don't remember any part of the nativity having any navigation details in it. Follow that star was all there was. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but the relevance was to how they would know that star was, why that would be such a big deal to them.
Yeah, but it wasn't triangulate your position with respect to that star, was it? Or I
No.
take that back. Not triangulating anything. I'm not. The Bible didn't say perform celestial navigation to establish your position with respect to 2 or 3 lines of position to stars by making circles of equal elevation after deriving elevation angles, minusing from 60 and timesing by 90, or minusing from 90 and timesing by 60, I should say.
No, that's not what Jardo's point was. Jardo's point was that this light in the sky is now shining brighter. That means they would have had to know the baseline level of intensity or understood the celestial sphere enough to say, this is a major event. Let's go this way.
Okay. Well, it's coming up for Christmas. Maybe on Level Up channel, we'll get some coverage of the Nativity. We will see. Anyway, let's move on. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No one ever does.
Just no. Fair enough answer. I can't really disagree.
Right. It's impossible. The definition of angle is 2 straight lines meeting at a vertex. So you can't curve one of those lines and it still be an angle.
What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet. Probably never.
Well, a heliocentrist in that field would first have to utilize the Earth as a flat baseline to establish a radius value to get their values for solar systems and astronomical units. So, no.
Are you suggesting that to infer a non-phenomena based mathematical reification of an orbital motion as described in astrophysics, for example, you would need a flat plane to derive elevation angle measurements to stars, for example, to give you a celestial sphere to then infer the orbital motion, and then infer that you've got a non-phenomena based, scientifically validatable cause and effect relationship? Is that what you're suggesting? It's a bit of a stretch.
Well, like when they say the stars are disappearing below the horizon.
Gotcha.
Right.
You got
Is
there
that
quickly.
the
I'm surprised, John.
phenomenon?
That's impressive. You got there real quick. Carry on. My bad. I'm just impressed.
Right. They're using a flat plane celestial sphere to assert that the stars are below your feet in that model, but it's still a flat plane model.
But that's the obstruction of the physical geometric sphere edge below surface level, obstructing at the surface level. You phrase that better than I do. You know what I'm talking about, right? The obstruction of the flat
They're
plane.
trying to sort of physical geometric obstruction of the flat plane is what they try to assert.
Right. So in their mathematics, they're deriving a physical obstruction that's below the surface level by giving you mathematics that give you your eye level versus the surface level. So the difference between the two a la Al Biruni when he raises in altitude and then just calculates, like, well, how far down is the ground I've just risen up from and measured flat? Because the difference is going to give me an earth curve obstruction below the surface level I just measured as flat. So therefore, you've got an earth curve obstruction claimed to be an actual obstruction derived from a differential between eye level and surface level, which is flat. That's the trick. What I've just described is the, not simplification, the, what's the word? The qualification of how you as an individual would come to describe there being an earth curve at the horizon. Complex stuff, really, when you try and phrase it out in the way that it's actually true. A flat earth surface level obstruction calculation for a physical geometric sphere edge horizon below surface level derived from the differential between eye level and the flat surface level. That is earth curve.
Right. That's their assertion of what that calculator is doing. It's actually doing, as I understand it, is taking the resolution loss between differential and altitude adjustment and creating a multi-layer flat plane below it that has that resolution arc become the geometric horizon.
Or to put it another way, as you raise in elevation, you increase your angle to the surface. As you increase your angle to anything, you increase your resolution. Now, with distance, raising in elevation will increase resolution and increase the distance that you can see. That has been converted into circles based on elevation that then convert into an arc that you can describe as a surface, as opposed to a resolution loss calculation based on an elevation and how much the angle will give you more information to see, aka a greater distance. Same goes in reverse. As you decrease in altitude, you limit the angle, ergo limit the resolution that you can resolve into the distance. That would be inferred by earth curve mathematics that give you how much resolution you will lose as you lower in altitude, and plot that out also as a curve. And you can infer from that maths of resolution loss that there is a differential between surface level and eye level, giving you a reified physical geometric sphere edge below the surface level that you've calculated that resolution loss on. It's earth curve.
Right. Yeah, it still requires surface level to be a horizontal plane.
Well, you've got to calculate the resolution loss. If you're going to accurately describe where you can take what the calculator does in terms of what it's trying to infer visually represents the world you see. Now, for it to be a curve based on the resolution loss as you raise or lower in altitude, depending on how you describe it, then you can only describe that as the curve that comes out from left to right in Muppet vision. That's where your earth curve maths comes in, and hence you'll never get a calculator that gives you a representation that mathematically shows you how the curve forms a sphere, because that will always be an orthographic view. But that orthographic representation of a sphere is just reverse engineering how we see the world and taking those maths, putting them into a spherical format without any perspective included. So the optical representations of our world obviously include perspective, the way that a limitation of angle increasing or decreasing with height would be more succinctly described to a layman would be perspective.
Yes. And that's why ray tracing works in video games, because it's not basing it on a sphere. It's using horizontal planes. It's just segmenting those horizontal planes into an ever-growing, increasing circumference as you raise in altitude.
Absolutely. On Friday, about the 45-minute mark, about now, was where the stream crashed, because I assume I've got the settings too high for the encoder to record and stream on OBS. But given that I turned them down and it's now saying they're too low, next show I'll turn them up and we'll see if we have an encoder crash tomorrow. But so far so good on lowered settings. maybe that'll cause a problem tomorrow. But we've got past the 45-minute mark, which we didn't on Friday, which I'm very pleased about. Let's do a couple more housekeeping questions. The evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core. You can all join in, by the way. If you're new in the Discord server, feel free to pipe up at any point if you've got something that you want to add. We go through these motions daily. A self-perpetuating core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Anybody at all?
If you want to spout P waves and S waves and not give any context, you'll run into problems with the plane of reference with that as well.
So you're going to need a flat plane for that description of a molten iron core. How's that work?
Well, you would put your wave emitter, which is you know,
No,
on the
that's what I'm
ground,
asking. Sorry.
right?
We often cover the P waves and S waves and the return angle. Okay, you're going to need a flat plane for that angle if you're going to describe the signal that you get back. Gotcha. But to infer that we've got a core, this is just a radius-based question, John. How would it be the case that you can infer we've got a molten iron anything at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, the same way you would use the Earth curve calculator after you measured the flat plane. You would take geometric considerations with the return angles. And that's probably why their calculations are so wrong, like when it comes to the Nikola super deep borehole, is because they base their predictions on a sphere instead of using the flat plane measurements they actually took.
Is that true for the borehole? I didn't know that. I didn't know they actually based their incorrect measurements because they got it wrong. Basically, what John's saying, because he's got a lot of background noise, when they dug the Kola borehole in Russia, which is about an 2-inch wide pipe. If you've ever had my folks used to live on a farm, they had a borehole dug at one point, so I happened to see how a borehole gets dug. It's not very big. It's not what you would imagine. It's a few inches at best. But they dug down like 8 miles. And along the way, they had what they perceived to be a good idea of what they would encounter as they drilled because of the primary and secondary wave responses, return angle signals that we've just been describing that could only work on a flat plane. Well, John's going on to say that I always knew that they got it wrong. They thought they were going to go through sand. They went through water. They thought they were going to go through granite. They went through coal. Whatever. They're going through materials that they weren't expecting based on the return angle signals from a flat plane that they've received. But John's saying that they then took those predictions and made them spherical, and therefore they got them wrong. I don't. This is the first time hearing it. I know they got them wrong, but I didn't know that was based on spherical mathematics. Surely not.
Well, believe they live on a sphere. They always believe that. So they take their measurements from a flat plane, but they had to make it conform to a sphere. And that's where they get their ideas of what the layers will be. And I think that's why they got it wrong. Now, can I prove that at this moment? No. But I can guarantee you that they calculated it, what would be there based on Earth being a sphere.
Meh. You reckon? I don't think that's the case based on our own investigations into how things are performed. Even if you're looking at geodesic surveyors, they're still describing elevation changes with respect to a horizontal baseline. I still use that clip from the guy that was on Flatzoid's show that basically confessed to it. No, you're always going to be describing your vertical changes with respect to a plane. That's how it works. Right? Well, okay. Welcome to Flat Earth. Any inference you take from that point forward would preclude you having a surface level to reference, or in your case, sea level. Those are your standards because that is the standard. So if we're going to imply that any professional that's taking, in this case, return angle signals, is going to understand the implications of a return angle with respect to a baseline, they're going to level their tools, they're going to use their tools as they're intended, and they're going to interpret them based on a flat plane also. Now, it doesn't mean that in their religious rhetoric, in their mind, on a Sunday, they do go and worship at the altar of Baal, even though they've measured a flat plane. But I would infer that the professionals would still treat the world as it is, even though they still... I know as strange as that might sound if you're a newbie, you're going, so you're saying that somebody who measures Earth flat takes angles that could only be taken from a flat plane, can then go to bed knowing it's a ball. Yeah, so did you. You're here, right? So did all of us. But I don't think that's true, John. I don't think that's. You'd have to go some to convince me that was true.
You can know it's true though because of the models they create and show you to try to describe what they're going to run into. And the only ones I've seen are chunks out of a spherical Earth. Have you seen one based on a flat plane?
Yeah, but I've never seen the guy who actually ran the rig and the, what would it be, the engineer that was using, or the technician that was utilizing the equipment, and the interpretation of the results
No.
are angle based, aren't they?
Those that created the model, the engineer and the guy running the rig are just using a horizontal plane.
Yeah.
But the secular priest who designed the model that they're going to base the calculations of what they're going to run into would have used the sphere.
You sure? I don't know. Like I say, you'd have to. We'll have to draw a line under this here because you've already disclaimed that it's conjecture on your part. But I would definitely not buy that. I'd say no. The people who have inferred various things from the dig, or may have inferred it as it was being done, or labeling it the whatever they called it, road to hell or something, hole to hell. You know, I know there's plenty of implications that other people have taken from that dig, but and models that have been drawn up that are spherical in nature, that are based on flat Earth P waves and S waves. I don't dispute that, but we're talking about how the church uses some instance of someone doing a dig to infer that there's a spherical Earth. That's church rhetoric, as opposed to engineering rhetoric.
Right, but they're so intertwined.
I don't think they are. I really don't. If they are intertwined, then heaven help us, there is no point. There is no point, is there? If I think things will start to collapse pretty quickly. Things will fail if that's the case. Buildings will fall down. Bridges will collapse.
No. There's the utilization of engineering, right? And that's what they did when they dug the deep borehole. But there was the predictions made based on the idea that the Earth has a molten iron core, a mantle, and then a crust that surrounds it all. And within that crust, there's certain layers. Those are separate, but they're intertwined in that they all go to the same institution to learn their position.
Okay, maybe more investigation into the borehole is needed. I mean, it's a win-win either way for us, isn't it? Right, regardless. So, if it is the case that they say, well, we took our measurements from a flat plane, and then the inference of a ball was where we went wrong, and all the predictions fell on their ass as a consequence. Win for us. Okay, yeah. So you tried to turn a flat plane measurement into a ball, and that's why it failed. Alternatively, we took flat plane measurements, and we got it wrong. Okay. What difference does it make to me? You took flat plane measurements, right? Okay. 81 people watching. Please share the show on Facebook and X. Really appreciate all the people who smashed the share button already. It's good to see you all in the audience, whizzing on by in the live stream chat. Nice to have you all here. Hopefully we can push it over 100 between now and Friday. Get those numbers back up again. But yeah, please share the show if you've not done so already. What haven't we covered? We hinted at it, but we didn't cover it. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Do y'all want to talk about not actual deflection, or do you want to kill it quick?
Owen can object as much as he likes, but I'll always want to do that.
Yeah, to derive the idea that an axis even exists, you'll need a plane of reference and elevation angles to polaris to derive the radius from for it to turn upon.
further to last week, we had Tinfoil Hat Man on, and he and his observations, it would seem, as much as myself, John, and Quantum Eraser, and a few others were not necessarily poo-pooing his observations, but underwhelmed because we've been here a while. So no disrespect to Tinfoil Hat Man in that regard. But what it did do was generate a whole bunch of interest in exactly the way that was predicted when we were putting it out there, and disclaiming to Tinfoil Hat Man what he would encounter as a result of putting this sort of observation out. And lo and behold, that's exactly what he's starting to encounter. I've been reading through some of the Master B internal message board for Flat Earth debate. There's a discussion going on about Ruhif specifically, who's making various claims about the observation height and all the stuff that we did back in 2015. I bet Ruhif's in his element. He's loving every second of it. Anyway, so I am in no doubt whatsoever that there will be people who will come past our way as a direct consequence of Tinfoil Hat Man and his observations, telling us how high he is and so on and so forth, distracting from everything we really generally want to talk about, which is how all flat Earth claims that are ever going to be utilised to make a globe into effect will be utilised by you, the globe believer.
Just to that, height in reference to what, Ruhif?
Sea level.
Oh, yeah, he's in trouble. That quick.
Yeah, that quick. I didn't catch that, but I love that you did. So, I love that I missed it too. Right, what John's just pointed out is when Ruhif challenges Tinfoil Hat Man on how high his position to take the picture was, that pause that I left in was intentional. How high above sea level he was? Are you going to need a flat plane to derive his vertical elevation, aren't you? You're going to need a flat plane to describe how high he is. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of measuring his height off a flat plane? The vertical axis. What's that, vertical in respect to horizontal? We'll need a flat plane for his height. That's game over immediately, isn't it, John? Immediately, Arwin.
Yes. You need the plane of reference to get your height from it.
So we'll need a flat Earth immediately, just to argue the toss about how high he is. Isn't that amazing? I wish we had these little tidbits in 2015 when we were doing this, because there was hints of it. If you go back and listen to the early shows, like maybe show 50 through 150, really early shows, you can hear us sort of with a furrowed brow when we get to things like sea level. We know something isn't quite right when we're saying it. And when we do go, well, hang on a minute, sea level. They're like, well, we just seem to move on without really knowing, because we don't know, do we? We don't know any better. Oh, it's just a colloquial use of this term sea level. Sea level really means bent around a sphere. No, it can't possibly mean that. No, that ball is up horizontal. And that's a fundamental principle when you're claiming a ball. You'll need that. And you'll need to reference that in order to claim you're on a ball. We'll point it out every step of the way. What's that? How high he is with respect to the horizontal axis? What, him in the vertical? We're definitely going to need a flat plane for this. $92 people watching. Are we going to get up to 100 before we get to the hour? 95 people watching. Someone's definitely sharing the show. Thank you very much, all of you. Smash that share button. Might get to 100 people watching on the very first show back. Wonderful. And with all of Arwin's objections. We haven't said hello to Arthur, by the way. Hello, Arthur.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello. Good to have you. Gonna hang around for the after show, right?
Yes, that's when
There's one more house.
By the way, I had a message for the Therians of India, but we can do that in the after show also.
Tartarians of India.
Etherians, the ether
Oh,
believers.
Etherians. Same difference. Same piss in a different bottle.
Agreed.
Before we do, we still have to address gas pressure without a container.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon? For all the numpties who think the sky is a vacuum without containment?
Well, if you're going to assert that there's an atmosphere that's holding the gas here, that will be calculated from sea level.
So you're saying that the gradation based on the horizontal reference to the vertical differential of each gradiated layer, you're going to describe each gradiated atmospheric layer, stratospheric layer, whichever layer you're describing, in the vertical. Therefore, you're going to need a horizontal plane of reference to describe the gradation on a reified sphere.
Absolutely.
So to describe the stratosphere in terms of where it would be at what height, you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Yes, because atmosphere is always with respect to sea level.
So to describe where they infer the Kármán line is, would be with respect to sea level.
Yes, that height above sea level is that arbitrary point where they say the car line is and entropy stops taking place. As silly as that is, they're still using a flat plane to calculate that.
Right? Well, isn't that strange? I think we've covered all the housekeeping questions in this hour, and we're very, very,
I
very
haven't.
close to hitting 100 people watching, which I'm delighted about. Arwin, go ahead.
I was saying. So
Oh, is it
I
you,
have
Arthur?
an
Sorry.
observation. Yeah, I have an observation I wanted to share that here in India, I am in many of the WhatsApp groups where they share memes. And of late, I have started observing that many of the memes are flat earth debate arguments, like of sextant and celestial navigation and the black swan argument, or at least very similar to the arguments that I hear in flat earth debate. And earlier, what all used to get shared was how NASA is fooling us and all those 2015 memes. So I don't know if you have observed it on X or Facebook also, but that is something that I have observed.
I see. So you're saying that the reaction, when people want to share their pain through artistic means, they do it through memes. And the memes that people are expressing their pain through are memes related to the arguments that we have put forth.
Yes,
I
I'm
see.
so glad to see that.
Well, people are going to share their pain with memes. It's what happens. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say if you are, well, I clear my throat so I can hopefully do the whole outro. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
I'll wait. Hello, Arwen. How have you been?
How you doing?
All good, all good. It's time for me to hog the show. And I'll start straight away with the pain of the Etherians. So, my original question, my main question is it even worth it to break this argument to the ether believers as a flat earther? Is it even worth it to get into a discussion on this topic that you are claiming ether for which you have no validation? Because what I have observed from flat earthers in India, I have expressed it a number of times on my own channel, but it doesn't seem to make sense to them. So even today, I got a meme. I shared the good news with you that people are sharing our arguments, flat earth debates arguments, which I also present in my channel and keep correcting flat earthers. But the bad news is that the ether believers are not going away. And I'll just take 30 seconds to read a meme which was shared today. What is the ether? Question mark. The answer. The ether is the ever-present field that connects all things. Full stop. Yes, everything is connected. Full stop. Every inch of the ether consists of infinite amount of free energy. This is the elite's greatest secret. If science were to reveal that the ether exists, it would destroy the entire foundation of mainstream atomism and particle science. Full stop. Denying the ether would be like a fish denying that it is surrounded by water. And I'm done. So, this last statement, denying the ether, would be like a fish denying that it is surrounded by water. And in my own presentation, and here in so many ether roasts that we have had, both in QE's channel and Nathan's channel, what do we always say? That ether is everything and ether is the air. So, denying the ether as a human is like a fish denying that it is surrounded by water. So what is ether then? Ether is the air. It is connecting everything. So what do we
But
do with
the
this?
air is not connected.
My question remains the same. Is it even worth it to get into a discussion about ether? I have done it before and it is worthless. They don't seem to get the point. I have tried it through my own channel, but here I am trying it on Nathan's channel. If any of the listeners also listen to Nathan, they would probably get the point.
Well, may I ask the question, do they believe the air is bonded together?
I don't know, man. In my own video, the first slide that I show are 20 different definitions of ether that they have. Ether is an medium, metaphysical medium, and ether is air, and
No.
ether is everything. So it is
Well,
just one of those definitions.
yeah, I understand that, but the claim is that ether is what binds everything together, right? Is air bonded together?
Not according to me, but I'm not sure about them because they are denying that air is consists of atoms and molecules. Right? Atomism is not true.
No. No, you're not even going to atomism at that point. Does air fill the available space, or does air is it or is air bonded together? It's not both.
What John's saying, Arthur, is their claim is it binds everything together. Well, to be bound together would mean you were bound. Well, the point of being a gas, the fundamental property of its phase, is that it's unbound.
Obviously, if you inquire whether they are saying that ether is the same thing as the air, they are going to deny. No, ether is more than that. But if you put it into their analogy of a fish denying that it is surrounded by water, in that case, for humans, denying the ether is like denying the air, which is one of the definitions which you always keep hearing, but it is a vague representation. They just say it without even understanding it.
Just sounds like meaningless drivel, though.
So my question,
Right.
initial
We
question
don't
was,
believe
is it
bonded.
even worth it to get into a discussion like this?
It's begging the question, Arthur. Hey, everyone. It's begging the question. If you listen to what's actually being claimed concerning ether from Witsit, right, and those who directly follow Witsit, they're all just talking about darkness. That's what they're talking about, the dark. That's why I make the joke. I don't think people catch on to that. They are describing what dark is. So when there's no lights on, it's dark. But the light then comes from the dark. You switch on a light switch, in a dark room and it's illuminated. But what got illuminated? According to how they're describing it, the dark gave us the light. So that's what they're actually claiming. The dark is where the light hides in the dark. That's what they're claiming. That's how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah.
But do we need another way? Because if you listen to exactly, because I listen to a lot of it. I've listened to a lot of it, and I debated with it twice. I went onto his channel another time in between talking to him about it. Like everything he's describing, all the other descriptions, it's like they're trying to describe dark. Because when they try to define light, it's always happening from the places where it isn't. Where isn't light? Dark. You know what I mean? That's basically what they're trying to claim. Go on, Refracted.
I think that what I was getting ready to say is kind of akin to that. What they try to do is conceptualize nothing, make that nothing the ether, and then they say nothing can't exist, therefore ether. But they've not demonstrated or shown nothing because you can't, and they get caught in that loop.
And they beg the question, and they describe dark when they're talking about ether. That's it. They're the only two things they do. They beg the question of its existence, and then they describe, when you ask them about it, they describe darkness. That's what it comes back to. Everything comes back to darkness. Because they're not claiming light is ether. Do you know what I mean? Just listen to them. It's dark. The light hides in the dark. That's what they're claiming.
What a load of old nonsense. But why? For what purpose? If anybody ever shows me a practical application, regardless of their outlandish beliefs, then I'll listen. But what's it serving? What's the point? Other than some namby-pamby hippy-dippy.
They're adding free energy.
What's it achieving other than some namby-pamby hippy-dippy belief about everything being connected, man? Well, why are we? That's lovely. And
They are hiding free energy.
oh, are they?
Also, it's also a great talking point when you're discussing it's like a common ground with the heliocentrists, because they have their space-time, you have your ether, you got a common ground there where you can discuss a place that doesn't exist.
I see. So both have their own version of Narnia, so they get on quite happily.
Well, you can argue about a place that doesn't exist.
You can.
Nathan, it's just a very complicated grift.
Complicated grift.
That's the only way you could describe it. I don't know any other way you could describe it that would be as precise.
So what does this generalize to? Anyone who has a better knowledge of science can educate me about it. This generic statement of calling ether, the first statement was, the ether is the ever-present field that connects all things, all in capitals.
That's a generalized begging the question fallacy.
Yes.
What's a field? What's a field? Like electromagnetic field, electric field, magnetic field. These kind of
that's what they're hoping you'll do, Arthur.
Arthur,
that's exactly what they want you to ask. Because then any of the lists that you give, they can reify into their nothing that isn't light. It's the presence of non-light that's going to reproduce the light that it's come from, because it permeates through all things, man. But what's that, you ask? If it's an energy field, well, it's all things, so yes. Electromagnetic field, absolutely. Let's waffle on about electromagnetic fields for about 25 minutes. And at the end, just strap on the words, therefore ether, Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, they want you to
did not
focus
even
on
care
words
to
like that
put
instead of
any.
focusing on the fallacy.
Hold on,
Sorry.
Brian. Go ahead, Arthur.
I'm saying they did not even care to put any adjectives before field. They did not say magnetic field or electric field or electromagnetic field or any other field, just a field. So what's a field? In science, how do we define field? Like they also claim that there is gravitational field. So what's a field?
It's a
That would be
description
defined as an
of
area of influence.
One more time, John.
If you were going to give it a description within, I guess science or the study of electromagnetism, something like that, it would be an area of effect or influence.
An
That's how you
area
would
of
describe a
effect or
field.
influence would be a field. Not bad.
Area of effect or influence. Did I get that right?
An area of effect or influence, yeah. Not bad.
All right.
But if you're saying everything is the area of effect or influence, then you're not talking about anything.
No, now you're getting it. No, it's everything but simultaneously nothing. Don't you get it? I mean, it sounded like you were getting it then, John. And then you went on to say, but that means nothing. Like meaning nothing means something. Because you can't have no thing. Really ethereal, man.
Yeah, John, nothing is also ether.
Right. So it's basically like the ultimate argument to ignorance. Everything you don't know is ether.
Yeah, man. It's amazing, isn't it? And that is the reason why they are hiding free energy from you, John. If you could only see it, you could have a taste. Not an actual piece, but a taste of the free energy that's out there, that's being hidden, by knowing that you can't have no
Right.
thing, that there is no not thing, that is a thing. Therefore, ether.
Right. And the elites know this thing that is an argument to ignorance thing, that if you know it, then it's no longer ether. They know this thing that no one else knows or could know, else it would not be ether. Therefore, we need to figure out what this is.
But they already know. They're just not telling us.
That's
In fact,
right.
they've known forever. What I don't know and can't explain, they have known forever and are hiding free energy with that they know and I don't know and can't explain. But they do know. Free energy being hidden with that.
Don't that make you want to throw up in your mouth a little? Just
yes,
saying
it does,
out loud kind of makes you want to throw up in your mouth a little bit, doesn't it?
I did throw up a little bit in my mouth while saying it. Sorry, Brian, we cut you off for all that.
No worries. No, I would just the very first thing that I focus on is not the word field, right? Just that it's a generalized begging the question fallacy. But then we're back to what's ether? Show it to me. And what can they show you? Magnetism, light, all these other things that are supposedly connected to it. But they can't show you ether. If it's real, it can be shown and demonstrated. Like gravity. Is that real? Can it be shown and demonstrated? No. Unless they're talking about specific gravity, which is relative density, which is just a hijack of reality. You know, a hijack of something, because it's even stated that specific gravity, the correct name for it is relative density. Online. So, ether, what's that? What's that going to be? What's ether going to be? Magnetism. That's what it's going to end up being, isn't it? It turns out it was just magnetism all along. You know what I mean? That's just like gravity. It turned out gravity was just relative density all along. You know, a specific ether, they start calling it. It's nonsense. Like, they wanted to get into the dangle of what this word means. And sure, that has to happen at times, I get it. But it comes back to either you're going to show us this or you're not. and they're not because they can't. It doesn't exist.
So basically, for the
Well,
ones
it's a
which
conceptual.
I'm sorry. So basically, the ones which make sense to me on a very basic level are magnetism and uh, magnetic field and electric field. And for both of these things, at least you have to get something in the physical level in order to generate a field.
Just
For
one
a
sec,
magnetic
Arthur.
field, you need to have a
Hold
physical.
on. You're going to be shocked by this, but there are already masses of information on magnetic fields and electric fields. They're really well studied, and they are not ether. They are magnetism and electronics.
Yeah, so I was getting there that for electric field, we need to have actual electricity through a wire or through any other conductor. And for magnetic field, you need to have an actual magnet. But for this field, which has no adjectives, it's just a field, there is nothing physical required.
But that would be a magnetic field as opposed to an ether field.
Ether is the ever present field.
Oh, I see. So if ether is everything, and then I talk educatedly about magneticism, then ether is magneticism because ether is everything, and I've just talked quite educatedly about magnetism. Therefore, free energy being hidden. Gotcha. All makes sense.
Well, let me tie this to the debate and how it works. If you're a heliocentrist, okay. Well, so there's this ether field binding everything together. That's how we're able to breathe in a space that gas could fill, but it isn't because the ether is holding it here.
What is ether again?
Well, it's the soup that the planets flow through,
When you say holding, how does that relate
Ether
to?
was invented by Huygens.
How does that relate to unbonded gases? How's it holding them? Whatever it is that hasn't been defined yet.
Atmosphere, man. It's it's stuck to a ball, and the ball's like going through a area that it could fill if not for the ether.
Okay. I mean, at this point, if I was to point out that you're going to need a flat plane for that won't phase the Etherians one bit, will it? Well, yeah, of course you will.
Right, yeah, because they already have the inertial plane in their descriptions. Yeah, so yeah, that
Description?
won't bother a flat Earth Ethereum. Now,
Description
if
of
you're
what? You say they've got the inertial plane. What to describe the universe? But how does that relate to ether? If they're describing the plane of inertia, for what?
Nathan, please let me share my video. Would you please
Yes, stick it
share
in Master
a
B.
slide?
Yeah, stick it in Master B and I'll play it. Unless you
just real quick to explain that, what they have is it's a toroid based on a flat plane that creating the North Pole, and like it's going out, and then they assume there's like a negative counter space to that below it that's doing the opposite, creating this other toroid below it.
Hold on, you're describing what a magnetic field would look like, and when you say negative counter space, you mean like the negative pole of a magnet and the toroidal field it would create.
Very similar, yes.
But with a nothing that isn't describable and simultaneously permeates everything, bonds everything, and is everything, but also nothing, but nothing is something, and it is also ether. That is described as a positive and negative counter space, akin to and identical to in description a magnetic field. Correct?
If only you would say that with more confidence, people would believe you.
Oh, you see, you mean instead of saying it with disdain and a frown that's like, what the hell is this nonsense? If I was to say it with an upward inflection, like the negative toroidal field of the counter space, then suddenly people would give me what, Bitcoin and money and accolades rather.
Yeah, it's the way you're saying it. It's you got to say it like it is there. You know it's there. You're describing it. Why aren't people getting it?
Oh, and question why you aren't understanding what could be phrased with disdain as a question about how nonsensical things are sounding, and just, like I say, positive upward inflection, giving it the, yeah, we definitely do have counter space creating a negative toroidal field. Also, please smash the super chat, give me money, and, you know, we'll get our way to the free energy eventually.
Please check
Right.
Master B.
Well, you can't have the positive without the negative, man. For this positive toroidal field that's generated that our compasses rely on, there has to be a negative.
Ooh, that sounds great.
There is
So,
no push without
Is
pull.
that something that my audience could be perhaps helped with influencing? I mean, maybe I could help them influence it, that negative field. We obviously have an influence over it. It's permeating everything and bonding it all together. Therefore, if I can help you, Etherian in the making, with your influence over the negative toroidal field, we'll all be on our way to free energy pretty damn quickly. I'm going to need money to do this, though. Let's be clear.
Right. Scientific discovery is not cheap, guys. Please smash that super chat. Help out the
Somebody over my
Patreon.
shoulders telling me that science needs a method or something. Shut up, scammer! So anyway, we're going to be finding out the science of ether pretty soon, and we're definitely going to need funding. And anybody who says that science requires a method, they're just scammers. Just understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
And science, the body of science has known this for ages. Right. They've known it. This body of science.
Yeah, and they're the
They've
ones
hidden it.
hiding it from us.
Hidden.
Really, we should fight against that body of science because they're really the enemy. Science is the enemy, strictly, because they're the ones hiding this free energy. Science has basically cheated us all. Just the enemy.
Free energy.
In one of the modern day debates, a Glober says, we have scientifically measured it. Now, can someone figure it out for me, please?
Sorry,
Scientifically
scientifically.
measure something.
You
That's
can't
a
scientifically
contradiction in
measure.
terms. That's a category error and a contradiction in terms. Measurement.
It's
you mean
actually
like maths?
it's actually it's an attempt at the hijack of valor. When you say the word scientifically measure, those two words, because all you're doing is measuring something, yeah. Well, you say scientifically measure, it's like as if you're trying to hijack the valor of actual science, isn't it?
Yeah. It was adding more kudos. Or if you feel that you haven't done good enough measurements, you can decry your own measurements by saying you haven't done scientific measurements of stuff. It's just a rough idea, just a rough baseline, not scientific in any way, but here are my measurements. Or if you've taken really good measurements and a lot of them, then you've done science. These are the scientifically validated measurements. None of it's
So
science.
one of the
Rubbish.
Maths.
one of the statements in my same definition of ether was, if science were to reveal that the ether exists, and I have heard enough QE to question this statement that science does not deal with the existence of things.
Yeah, again, a reification of science being an entity that can reveal things. It's the man behind the cloak, the door, whatever you want to call it. It's like, no. Science is a method for elucidating the cause of an effect that you've observed in nature, aka a phenomena. That's its purpose, to elucidate cause. What's that? If science revealed the ether? No. What science can do is validate the cause of an effect you observe. So in order for it to be in any way science, first you must observe an effect. So, Etherians, what effect are we observing? roll on the hippy-dippy, la-di-da nonsense that makes absolutely no sense and certainly won't provide you with phenomena to study.
Well, their answer is going to
I
be
also
that
thought
you're
about
observing
it,
the
but
ether. Just 1 second.
yeah.
Their
So
answer is going to
Nathan, what?
be.
Yes, please go ahead, Nathan. Brian, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Adam. Their answer is going to be that you're observing the ether. Your ether is the effect and the cause. You understand?
No.
That's what they're going to like. I know you're sorry.
Fantastical concrete noun at best. A fantastical concrete noun. What's happening?
Yes.
In physical reality, what's happening? Oh, well, nothing. It's the permeation and the toroidal field of the counters. Sorry. What is happening? That's what we're going to study. The thing that happens, we're going to figure out why it happened. That's science. Not, well, it's the underlying ethereal undertow of the universe that we know when binded through a toroidal field. Get lost! Show me something happening and I'll study it with science. If you can't show me anything happening, there's nothing to study.
Well, it could be even more vague, Nathan, where they will say that you're observing the ether, you just don't realize you're observing the ether. That means the effects you're seeing are ether effects, but you don't realize they're ether effects because you don't understand the ether. That's what they'll tell you. Literally, that's what they'll tell you.
So Nathan, I also thought along those same lines, but then if you actually replace the word science with the scientific method, then don't you think this statement does make sense that the scientific method reveals to us cause and effect relationships using that method, which is a systematic method?
Yeah, that was spot on.
Yeah, so there's no point hair splitting on that part.
No, but they don't want science to be the method. They want science to be a man, a group, an entity, a process that isn't the methodology of cause and effect reasoning based on systematic experimentation. That isn't what science is when people of the Ethereum inclination go out and attack science. What they mean is charlatans who have no evidence claim they have empirical evidence by saying science. They are charlatans and we disagree with them. They don't say that. They just say, science has lied to... No, it hasn't. Men have lied to you. They've used the empirical method to lie. That's science. They've used that by stealing valor when they haven't been through the method. That doesn't mean that science has lied to you. It just means that men have hijacked the method because it offered empirical outcomes when they didn't have one. So it's like saying, I've got a jury result. The man's guilty. How do you know? He went to court and was found guilty. He was? Absolutely. All right, well, he's definitely guilty then. Okay, on my go with my day. Did you know that Jerry was found guilty in a court of law? No, he absolutely wasn't. There was no trial. What do you mean there was no trial? Someone just told me he was found guilty in court. Yeah, they're just stealing that process to claim he's guilty when they haven't actually put him through the court process. So what, I was duped into thinking he was a guilty man because they used the word court process or the words court process. Yeah, they just said court process when there wasn't one. Oh, I see. So he's not really guilty. They never actually had any proof of anything. They just claimed they had a jury process when they didn't. Yeah, that's right. Well, then we will just attack the jury process. No, you fool. No, they didn't go through the process. The jury process lied. Said he was guilty. No, you fool. They didn't go through the jury process. It didn't happen. They just said they did. That's what's happening, but with science instead of jury process. So they didn't go through the scientific method. No. Science lied to us. No, they didn't go through the method. They'd never had any science. We must attack all science. Scientism. You idiot. No, they were lying. They never had it. They didn't have a trial. They just said he was guilty when he wasn't.
Exactly, Nathan. And the only reason they're getting away with it is because there is so much pseudoscience out there that's claimed to be science. You know what I mean? They're attacking all of science, right? We're realizing they should only be attacking pseudoscience. And they're denying actual science, and they're attacking the scientific method, etc. When what they need to be doing is attacking those who don't use scientific method, and they're not doing that. They're attacking us for using scientific method, and then attacking pseudoscience, and trying to say all the science is backward and wrong, while they promote a load of pseudoscience.
Exactly.
So they're no better than the people they're attacking.
Just as a moment of clarity, you got to remember, we're talking to people that are arguing with us that heat is causing the water to boil on our stove.
Yeah, we're dealing with dumbos. A better example would be Judge Dredd, right? The implication of Judge Dredd is that the judges in that narrative represent the law. They represent the process of going through a jury trial without one. They are the law. But they're not. They're fallible people. So when somebody gets arrested by Judge Dredd and thrown in jail immediately without trial, he is the judge in that instance. Right, gets it wrong. But when someone asks, why are you in jail? Well, because you went through the entire jury process. You went through a court trial, didn't you? Yeah, I did, yeah. How did that go? Well, it involved one man saying, I am the law, and then he put me in jail. There was no court process. But we understand that a judge means court process, doesn't it? Yeah, you said judge, that means court process, yeah. Well, likewise, you said science, didn't you? Yeah. Well, that means scientific method, doesn't it? Yeah, they definitely went through that, yeah. They said science. Oh, right, okay, so we're all cushy then, because they said science definitely means the empirical method, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. Even though Judge Dredd didn't give him a jury trial, even though they didn't go through the method. So let's attack the scientific method then. Let's attack the jury method then. It's just like people are thick.
And we are talking about flat earthers here, the creme de la creme among the normies of the world. They are also dumb fucks.
No swearing. Flat Earth has been pitched at numpties and conspiratards. That's how it permeated its way into my life as I looked at conspiratorial subjects like subliminal messaging and psychopathy. Some subjects attract conspiratards. They are but a few. There are others like Mandela effect, like ether, like Tartaria, like clone centers, like reptilians. There's a whole bunch of subjects that have been subtly attached to Flat Earth when it first made its way into YouTubeism. That's how you would have found your way. So what type of person will gravitate their way to Flat Earth? Weirdos, conspiratards, and numpties. That is who the Flat Earth believers are. Now, over time, we have separated ourselves from these complete idiots, and now we find ourselves realising how not only the Earth is flat, not by way of our own stupid belief, but a matter-of-fact measurement of the place we inhabit, and how that matter-of-fact measurement of the place we inhabit has been used to make a globe for the rest of the numpties to believe in. That's where we're at. We are so far detached from what has been stereotypically formulated to make what is a flat earther a flat earther. It's untrue. We're so far removed from that now in 2023 that we bear very little resemblance to your average flat earther now. None of us do. To the point where we find ourselves arguing with flat earthers as much as the globers do. Because we see them as stupid, just for very different reasons.
Hey, Nathan, there's no better time. I'm sorry, Brian, but there's no better time for a confession as well as a testimony. Because I used to be all those things, all those labels that you said, alien believers and ether believer, and almost all of those things in around 2015, 16. And then in 2017, I became a flat earther. And then slowly I got to know about Nathan Oakley and the flat earth debate. So right now I'm grounded firm in not just the flat earth, but I have gone beyond that, which many of the people here in the panel also haven't done, is to find firm grounding in the Bible. I'm sorry to bring it back again, but you discussed it during your live show also. So it ties back. Right now I'm grounded, but I used to be all of those things which you just said.
Well, the engineered paths to this subject have alongside that path lots of fast food restaurants serving the Feast of Nonsense menu. And when you finally get it, you're going to be so overgorged with garbage of flat earth. It's not a surprise that the back route that led you to the main road with all those Feast of Nonsense flat earth garbage restaurants on it were conspiratorial roads. You know, it's been engineered that way. It is no surprise that I had Math Powerland play to me on autoplay after watching stuff about subliminal messages and psychopathy. It was primed by YouTube to be exposed to the numpties of the world, ready for it to be ridiculed when they said stupid crap based on the nonsense they were fed on the path that they took to Flat Earth. Feast of Nonsense garbage got regurgitated for years and years and years till enough damage was done, and then they shut it all down, pushed it to the bottom of the lists, and let the anti-Flat Earth retain the top spots. That's how it's been done. That is the
I would have to
story of Flat
disagree with you.
Earth.
Sorry, I thought you were finished. I mean,
No, that was it.
that's how it's been
No,
done.
I'm done.
I'd have to disagree with you only a little bit, though, only on one point. I think the big difference was they realized in late 2018, early 2019, hang on, these people might actually have a point, right? They realized not every one of the people involved in this arena that we've been promoting on YouTube and that. I think the likes of YouTube and that realized, hang on a minute, these people are actually making an argument here. Like conspiracy nuts don't make arguments. They just make conjecture that may or may not be real, and people can believe in it or not believe in it, or argue with it or not argue with it. But you can't argue with perpendicular, for instance, right? Can't be argued with. Horizontal plane can't be argued with. It's like certain things you cannot argue with. How an airplane flies can't be argued with. How celestial navigation is done can't be argued with. Things like that, and suddenly they realize
Geometry in general is hard to really argue. It is the way it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. So consequently, I think they got to a point in 2019, because you have to remember, there's no guarantee that the likes of the top brass of YouTube actually realized, hang on, the Earth might actually be flat. I don't think they even might actually be. You could actually describe it as flat. Let's just say, to be more precise. So when I think it got to a point when they realized, hang on a minute, we need to put these people back into the bottle. You know what I mean? That we created and gave to them, because they're making an argument here. And now it's that our opposition has no argument. Not that we were making an argument a few years ago. Our opposition have no argument, which means we don't even. Which means we've won outright.
Right.
And that's why they stopped us in 2019, because it started becoming obvious that these people are not they're not all just a bunch of conspirators.
Well, they don't have arguments that aren't based on the presupposition that the Earth is a sphere. To them, that is normal, and they want that to be normal. It isn't technically normal, and we break that spell. Right? We are basically undoing the culture of presupposing the Earth is a sphere. That is what we're really doing. It's not even pointing out that the Earth is flat. It's pointing out that everybody's gotten used to presupposing the sphere, and that's okay. That's the main mission,
Yes.
to snap people out of that subconscious normalization.
Yeah, I mean, mostly I get attacked a lot of the time by the opposition, saying, you're always attacking the globe. Why don't you give us some flat Earth evidence? They're always at this, right? It's like the whole point is that, like, because they want me to make a claim that they can then try and attack, right? And when I do make a claim about anything to do with proving the Earth could be a horizontal plane, like with airplanes or something, they just abuse me. You know what I mean? They don't have anything. You know what I mean? So, well, the thing is that mostly what we do point out is how it's not a globe. It's not a heliocentric globe. That's it. Mostly. But we don't even have to even give a flat Earth proof. We could just go around debunking the globe and still prove basically the same thing. It would be the implication, or the outcome would be, well, in that case, it has to be, there's no curvature can be measured. No 8 inches per mile square drop can be measured anywhere. Sea level is, mean sea level is a horizontal. All elevations are taken from mean sea level. That means the underlying baseline, the underlying baseline of the whole Earth is a horizontal plane. Things like that. Well, we don't even have to claim the Earth is to be flat or described as flat, or we don't have to do any of that. All we have to do is keep showing how it's not a globe. But that's all we ever really had to do. But it's also nice to show how it's definitely a horizontal plane. Well, a description of flat,
Right.
maybe not a perfect horizontal plane, but horizontal baseline.
Well, the thing is, their descriptions rely on that as well, pointing that, you can debunk their claims, right? Because there is no physical geometric obstruction that we call the horizon. But you can debunk that claim, and that's one way to go about it, and that's an awesome way to wake people up. But you could also point out, like you just said, that even their assumption about a physical geometric obstruction requires sea level to be a horizontal plane. It's both ways are equally valid, whether you're debunking the globe or pointing out that they need a flat Earth for that, proving a flat plane.
Right, but in reality, the shape of the Earth, or what the surface, the Earth being flat, is kind of trivial in relation to the psychology of the ball and how it's basically a self-suspending in disbelief religion that is based on perpetuating for yourself ignorance in order to maintain the belief of it. That's the real big challenge. I mean, once you snap people out of that and make them see that, then the Earth of being flat is like, oh yeah, sure. It's not that complicated. It's really getting them over that threshold of stopping to perpetuate that self-reinforced delusion. That's the hard part. And simply saying you're going to need a flat Earth for that, they won't even get that. They just won't understand it. They won't be able to follow.
Well, I think
I don't know about that.
I'll go after John.
I was just going to say, I don't know about that. From my experience, when they realize they need a flat plane, they run away.
Right.
From my experience.
But it doesn't stick then, right? I'm not talking about debate situation. I'm talking about actually waking up for themselves and just telling a globe believer, like, oh, you're going to need a flat Earth for that. They're just like not going to listen. Just like, whatever.
But
right?
What's actually
It only works
what
once
is
you step
important?
out of the dream. Then you can actually show that. Did you realize that everything that you believe is all designed based off a flat plane? It only works after they snap out of it. Otherwise, they're just not going to listen.
Well, the bigger, 1 second. Excuse me. The bigger thing that's after happening is that our opposition have become the crazy people. And we're being seen as the sane people. You go back to 2015, it was the complete opposite way around. We were being seen as the crazy people, and our opposition were being seen as the sane people. But anyone who comes into the arena or ends up being any part of it at all, regardless of the feast of nonsense that's out there, flat earthers still look more sane than the opposition. Because the opposition are claiming all kinds of crazy nonsense now because they have to. You know what I mean?
They rolled out professional debate.
Yeah. Exactly. It's gone the opposite way, in my opinion. Sorry, John. I know you want to say something.
It's just making it more and more crazy as to make it easier for people to enable themselves to stay in the dream and not snap out of it. Because that's really the objective for the anti-flat earthers. How do I tell a story that for those who want to believe the globe, it'll assist them in defending against snapping out of it? That's really what it's all about.
What I was just saying, though, for them to know to run away from it, they have to understand it on some basic level. And that's been my experience, is when they start to get it, they run away from it.
Yeah, because then it gets too real. Right? They're like a hydrogen balloon, just floating there, pushing up, imagining there's an outer space and then it's gonna go to it. And then you hold a little match to it and poof.
Yeah, it's pain. That's all we deal with. It's all I see in
What?
our opponents is
It
pain.
just wants to get away.
What I see is concerning what John's point was there is, you know, these people who play a lot of video games that are based around war, you know, and kind of special units, special ops units,
You
you know,
mean
these
Call
kind
of
of games.
Duty? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, Call of Duty. I can't remember the name. I don't play games.
I know what you're
play
talking
games,
about.
so I can't remember. I'm not a gamer. So
Counter-Strike?
let's say Call of Duty.
Ash, he's got a point to make. The game's not that important. Just let him make his point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The
Call
point
of
is,
Duty?
let's say Call of Duty. It's like suddenly they've been brought and shown a real gun, and they fire a real gun at a tree or something, and suddenly go, and then they're showing a little bit of actual combat or the things you have to do, which become physical. And it's like a lot of nerds. I'm not saying everyone plays Call of Duty is nerd, obviously not, but lots of people play it. But I'm just saying people who live in the Call of Duty fantasy, when they're brought to the Call of Duty reality, how many of them are going to go, I don't want anything to do with this? A lot of them, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, but you know why?
It's real then.
Yeah, but not only that, is because in the game they don't actually have to endure explosions physically, which is very traumatizing. Yeah, if you shoot a gun and it's a loud banging gun, that's an explosion right next to you. There's explosions there. It's really traumatic. And in the game, yeah, you hear the sound, but you could just turn the volume down, you know, whenever it's convenient. You don't have any actual physical trauma from it. When you do real combat, you get real trauma. It's not fun anymore when you do the real thing.
Think about that, right? They've been desensitized to the subject in that video game, right? And then all of a sudden it's real. Of course they're going to run away from it. You know, I do feel bad for them. I do. I can't help but my heart goes out to them because that's all they know. And we come in, like they come in here, and in 2 minutes, we've destroyed the foundations of everything that they know and understand.
I wouldn't feel bad for them because they've had plenty of time. But what I would say is the flat plane that they were using in the video game turned out to be real. And that's the problem. The flat plane they keep needing for everything, right, in the video game, that was just a mathematical prerequisite, let's just say, for the baseline of the video game. Yeah, you need a flat plane just to make a globe, flat plane to do this, and a flat plane to do that, an orbit's flat plane. Yeah, gradients flat plane. Yeah, but it's still a globe. But suddenly it turns out that all the other stuff that was around the flat plane is not real. The only thing that is real is the flat plane. And that's the scary part.
Yeah, so I feel bad for them. It's like they've been stunted by a religion their development. I guess their cognitive development has been stunted because of this religion, and my heart goes out to them. It just does.
My heart doesn't go out to them at all because it's not up to me to feel pain for them or anything else. They decide to keep holding on to something, and then they decide to be nasty about it when you try and point out that they're just holding on to it. I don't feel any of their pain. I don't. My heart does not go out to them. I'm not going to put it.
Well, I mean,
I won't do that.
That's fine. You don't have to. I'm not saying that what's right for me is right for you in that instance. It's just I'm more empathetic to it than you are, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Especially this topic, it can beat empathy out of you quick.
Yeah, I can understand what you would be, considering you were on that side for so long and so deep rooted on that side. Well, I was never deep rooted on that side. I was just one of the ordinary people that were told that the Earth is a globe, and it never made sense to me. But I never gave it much thought until I never gave it enough thought until 2015. Then 8 seconds into thinking about it, and I realized, yeah, it's not a globe. So that's how easy it was for me to switch over. But if you were invested in it and you studied it and learned about it, you'd have a much harder time letting go. And it's funny that you're saying your heart goes out to them when you're the one that's constantly promoting you're going to need a flat plane for that. I think it's more guilt on your part, John. Am I correct?
Yes.
Hey, flat earthers. Didn't see you there.
Where have you been, Arvin?
Yeah, Arthur's been there all along.
Great.
Since
Is
no
Nathan
one
still there?
My
responded.
show today was great.
No, I called you
Hmm?
out before. You did not respond, Arvin.
Yeah, I was out for groceries. Yeah, that means Monday.
Yeah, I can totally understand.
Is Nathan there?
Can't do it. I can't go
Yeah.
out for groceries during my show, you know.
Nathan, I put
Yeah.
a screenshot. I sent it to you directly. A screenshot there tonight from Rohit. Somebody said to me, if you want to show it and read it.
And Nathan, you completely forgot about you wanted me to share something on Master B. I tried to remind you in between, but that topic even is long lost. It was about the ether. I shared the first slide of my own presentation, which I did on YouTube, in which I list all the different names by which they call the ether. But that topic is almost 20 minutes gone from us.
But maybe you should do the presentation on here, Arthur, during the week.
So it was pointing it out to the ether believers. I've done it if you're interested. I think most of it is in English, but there may be parts in Hindi also. I cannot guarantee. But yeah, if that's an invitation, I can obviously try doing that. But it's
Yeah,
many of the
any parts in
definitions are the
Hindi, you can
same.
just give us the English. Sorry.
I have done it from many of the definitions which I take are from QE's presentation only, but I have added a number of them which I heard from my own flat earth groups here in India. And they are more interesting than the QE ones. The QE ones are universal, but mine are unique. They put a different angle to it. But it's all, like Nathan said, same piss in a different bottle.
Yeah, I'm sure Nathan won't mind you doing it on the show one of the days
Definitely.
during the week. Yeah.
That's better than, covering a video or something. If you've got something to personally cover, definitely. I'll always prioritize that, Arthur.
Okay, hopefully this week. I'll tell you beforehand, Nathan.
So did you
Might
see
want to work on the
screenshot?
logistics of how. You might want to show up early to work on the logistics of how the information and any images you want shared, how they will be shared.
Yeah, we'll
Do you
figure
want
that out.
me to
Be
do
my
it now?
advice.
I did not. If you want me to do it now, hence I asked Nathan to let me share my screen, my
No, no, no.
A
presentation.
live show
No,
will
no,
be
no,
better.
no. For the now, we need to discuss what we might discuss and how we might react to it. That's how it works. Did you not? Have you not seen the show before?
So what I have done on my own YouTube video, it's titled "Ether Cult Exposed," and my thumbnail is Albert Einstein saying that there has to be an ether. Ether exists. Space
What is
without
it?
ether is impossible.
But what is it though?
So that's a 3 hour long video where I go
Right. So it's
into
just
the
like
details of
gravity.
it.
Like, so it's another claim. Oh, this thing has to exist, right? It only works with that. But then they can't even define what it is. It's just another gravity.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we have been through in like half an hour when Nathan's after show started. I started with the topic of ether, and it's just a summary of what I go through in those 3.5 hours.
Nice.
And I'm going to clip it. Nathan put it so beautifully towards the end, and there comes my confession and testimony. So I'm going to clip it and play it on my video. That's another thing I wanted to ask Nathan. It is going to be short, but I have done before, maybe a couple of times. What I do in my own channel is, since I'm a member, I get early access to your videos, and many of the clips where I find something interesting, or maybe I am talking or something of my interest is being done, I clip it and share it on my live stream. So I play your video on my live stream even before it goes live for your non members. I hope you don't have a problem with that, Nathan.
Nah, I don't mind. I mean, I would
Okay,
if it
I'll
was
do that
someone
with this
else.
video also.
If it was just some random, then yes, I would mind. But no, because it's you, and you're actually
Just
covering
wanted
it.
to let you know. Just wanted to let you know, if you remember, there was this New Moon guy, if any of the other panel members also
Yeah,
remember,
I remember
from
New Moon.
India, really broken English.
Yeah.
And he tried to present a number of things. That guy has come to my own channel, and I have roasted him on my own live stream even before he did appear on your channel with a fake accent. I don't know where he got it from, but in your channel, he was with a fake accent. I have done a live stream where I put my own previous clip and your live show's clip back to back together and asked the audience, aren't these two guys the same? So New Moon has been to my channel, and I have already told him about your debate with Jaren and how the science and the scientific method works. He did not seem to get it, and there he was debating with you in my own Hindi language. I just said, Ki, how you just were so I don't know how to put it in words, but it was a disgrace to watch an Indian go there on Nathan's channel and struggle to string a sentence together, and the point that he's making is utter horseshit. It was disgraceful. I let him know to him in my own video. He has never appeared ever since.
Yeah, it was a bit of a
Ouch.
disgrace. I remember him.
I remember him because it broke my
That
heart.
loud Indian guy, right? Who was just out of control.
Is
I
it
think I remember
the
that.
guy with a fake Indian accent, or an Indian accent that was putting on a different accent to sound different? I don't know. I don't know the motivation in things like
Yes,
that.
an Indian putting on a fake American or British accent in order to sound like, you know.
Yeah, that guy broke my heart. A flat earther making globe arguments. That was heartbreaking. That was, I didn't know how else. Like, and then his inspiration for doing it was Jaren.
And all of it happened before in a live stream where I was taking his class. I don't know how to put it in English, but I was trying to correct him very bluntly that you are wrong about science, about the scientific method, when he put laser measurement as being a scientific proof. I clarified, are you claiming that this is a scientific experiment? Because he was referring to Jeron's laser experiment, in air quotes. So I confirmed, are you claiming it to be a scientific experiment? He said yes. And then I made an entire video about how he doesn't know what science is, which is the same shit that QE does.
Nice.
I really like your channel. You should shout it out. It's a shame when you're live, you must remember more above anything else to promote your channel, because I watch your channel. I know a lot of it's in a language I don't speak, but you don't need to for the majority of what you're discussing. You can understand it. Now, maybe that's because I understand what you're debating, and therefore the language barrier isn't so much of a problem, which might not be the case for others. But I still really enjoy putting your videos on. I can just only speak from my experience. Hence, I've recommended people go and check you out and subscribe to you, because I think they get the same enjoyment out of your channel, even being in a different language. Not all the time, some of the time.
Me too. It works because the technical words are in English. So
Yeah,
you're like, could be bickering, but we will find out if you're bickering about something technical, because those words are very recognizable to us.
Well, when I watch Flat Earthers channel, I put the closed caption on in English, and it helps me understand a lot more.
indeed. I tend to watch with closed captions on almost every video I watch. I do like to read it as I'm listening to it.
I didn't even know
it's
you could do
extremely
that.
melodic. Hindi is an extremely melodic language. Or I'm sorry, I don't know if you speak Hindi, but the way your native language is very melodic, so it's easy to read along with for me.
It is what's the word? Melodic, you said.
Melodic, like music.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a melody.
All right. That's a compliment. Thank you. And within India, there are so many different local languages. So in India, among all these melodic languages, my local language, my mother tongue is not Hindi. It is Bengali. You must have heard of Calcutta,
Yeah.
which is Kolkata now, right? So you Britishers gave it the name of Calcutta for the people of that native place. In our language, we call it very melodically like Kolkata.
Kolkata.
So Kolkata, you don't pronounce it. You see,
With
don't pronounce the
with
T and the
a
D.
hard T, a Kolkata or Kolkatha.
Kolkata.
Kolkata.
Like the Dutch and the French say T and D, the and the, not T, the and the. It's the and the. Do you get it?
Yes.
So
See
my
how much
name is
nicer that sounds than Calcutta?
now.
It sounds so much
Now
nicer
that you
than when I
get
say
it,
it. You know what I mean?
now that you get it, it's
American.
time for a name reveal. My actual name is obviously not @flat Arthur B flat. It is Tapas Das. My surname is Das, just like you have in German, DAS, Das. But it's not Das, it's Das. And my first name is TAPAS, Tokyo, Amsterdam, Paris, Amsterdam, Sydney. Tapas. It's not tapas, like you have a Mexican cuisine. It's tapas. Das.
Tapas das.
Tapas.
Not das, not das, das.
No offense, I'm not going to even try to butcher it. I'm just going to stick to Arthur because I won't butcher that
I
near
love
as bad.
pronunciation, but I mean, it's a bit difficult doing it over the internet like this.
We have syllables. We have words like the and bh. So you would hear about names which have BH in there, like Bhairava. You do not even have that consonant in your language. Bh. It's not B. It's Bh.
With the H more pronounced, bha, like more air.
Yes, exactly, Arvin. Bh. And with when you
Bha.
add the H to D, the becomes the. You get it? The.
Duh, I get it.
Alrighty then.
The.
So I think that duh
Thank
comes
you so
from
much for being a
India.
part of the show. It has been a nice show, and I'll see you tomorrow. I have been Nathan Oakley. Now I'm going to be someone else.
Now I'm going to be Nathan Oakley again and say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!